I just thought that was a fun gag. So I asked Frank to save that for me. Now that the comic relief is out of the way, I want to start this morning by telling you a story about a young woman that I know. And I'm going to change her name for privacy, so we'll call her Judy. And Judy is a woman about my age and probably just a little bit younger. Judy has a strong faith life, and she's a very sweet person. She's kind, she's caring, she's friendly, she's loving. And even so, Judy has some struggles. You see, Judy struggles with addiction. And Judy has burned a lot of bridges with people in her life because of her drinking. Her daughter, for instance, was taken away from her because the state deemed that she was unsafe while she was in Judy's care. And Judy's sister stopped talking to her because Judy had stolen money from her on a number of occasions so that she could buy alcohol. Judy was asked to leave her parish because one day she showed up and she was intoxicated and her behavior caused her to make a fool of herself. Judy had a difficult time holding jobs. And each time she tries to get clean, she does what is known commonly as falling off the wagon. Now, as good of a person as Judy is, Judy's drinking and the way that it affects her behavior lead her to be seen by people as untrustworthy. She has, as you can imagine, a number of broken friendships, estranged family relationships, and financial hardships. And at many times in her life, Judy has broken down in tears, feeling like a broken person. Now, there was one stretch in Judy's life where she was able to stay clean and sober for several months. She was doing very well. She was holding a job. She was in the early stages of a new romantic relationship. And her health was improving. And then one day, the phone rang in my office. And through the sounds of obvious sobbing and wailing, I could hardly recognize the voice at the other end of the line. It was Judy. And once again, Judy had fallen off the wagon. And she was distraught, almost unconsolable. She felt shameful. What had happened was she had gotten into an argument with her new boyfriend. And then she found solace in a bottle of vodka. And in one evening, she drank the entire bottle of vodka. Now, she had thought that her time of having abstained from alcohol would make it easier for her to have maybe a drink or two and then leave the rest of the bottle intact. But as many addicts before her had discovered, and as she had experienced for herself many times before, once that proverbial seal is broken, the liquor simply continues to flow until there isn't any more. She asked me to come and visit her at her home. And because of the delicate nature of that visit, I asked a colleague to come with me to her house. And when we got there, we found Judy in a puddle of her own tears. The smell of alcohol was obviously coming from her every pore. Her hair was a mess. Her eyes were puffy. Her nose was raw from having wiped it continually with tissue. She was wearing a baggy t-shirt and not much else. And she was in a condition lower than I had ever seen her before. She felt broken and defeated and exhausted. And she said, "Father Tim, why is this my life? Why did God make this happen to me?" Now, Judy's question is a common one. And it's probably the most common question that I get as a pastoral presence. Because it's the age-old question of theodicy. If God is all-loving and all-powerful, then why does bad stuff happen? Now, what complicates that even further is that we have a number of passages from the Gospels that are similar to the one that we listened to today. There are 3 times in the Gospels that Jesus heals someone and then says, "Your faith has made you well." And that can lead us to question our faith or even God's love for us. And we can easily spiral into wondering, if faith makes us well and I'm not well, does that mean I'm not faithful enough? Or even, well, I'm faithful, but I'm not well. So does God simply not love me enough to keep me well? Now, if there's one thing that I've been able to teach you over the last few years while we've been worshiping together, it's that reading Scripture in context is really the only effective way to read the Scriptures. And this means that we have to ask the question, what's really going on here? So taking the passage that we just shared, what is really going on here? Jesus heals 2 people in today's passage. One woman reaches out and touches his clothes. She reached out through the crowd just to be close to him. Now, we could think of this as maybe she was kind of going fangirl on Jesus, and maybe she was just trying to grab a piece of his clothing, like maybe we used to hear about like at a Tom Jones concert or something like that. Right? Or was she truly faithful that this man has the power to heal her? And then later, he tells a girl who was thought to be dead, "Get up, you're not dead." And she got up. And those are great stories. They're great stories that showcase the divine nature of Jesus. But they can be problematic if we don't understand the nuances. Your faith has made you well. Now, in today's English that we speak, we know what that sentence means. We know what faith means. And we know what it means to be well. If we're faithful, then we're well, and there you have it. The problem with this is that English, like all languages, tends to shift. Okay? Now, not that long ago, I spent a week as a chaplain up at Chapel Rock. And I learned all kinds of new words that I did not know before I went to Chapel Rock. One of the words I learned was riz, which is short for charisma. Okay? And if someone has riz, that means that person is stylish. Okay? And am I wrong? Getting it close. See, I don't even know yet. I don't even know yet fully. Okay, and this one, you can correct me later on this one because I'm probably getting this one wrong too. This one's the word mew. Okay, and that's apparently a way that kids have discovered to minimize a double chin when taking a selfie. Okay, now I'm sad that kids feel they have to worry about hiding a double chin, but if I'm honest, I could do a little mewing myself. And I learned the word slay, okay, and that means to do something really well. Like when you slay someone, you kill them, right? So what do you do when you do something well? You kill at it, right? And those are just a few of the words that I learned while I was at camp. But I never knew any of those words when I was a kid. But that doesn't mean that we didn't have words and expressions that had similar meanings. We might have used words like rad or gnarly to mean the same thing that people mean when they say riz today. And we probably didn't mew, but I promise there have always been techniques for minimizing a double chin. And instead of slay, we would have said something like the word kick followed by a word for the human posterior. Okay? Language adjusts over time. And think of written language, okay? If something is written down in one generation, its meaning could completely change. Okay? Now, again, when I was a kid, the word bad was often meant to mean good. Okay? How confusing is that? Michael Jackson had a song called Bad, and in that song, Bad, he kept over and over again saying, I'm bad, I'm bad. Okay? But it didn't mean he was bad. It meant he was good. But 200 years from now, when someone's going over his lyrics, they might wonder, what's so bad about this guy? And if he was so bad, why was he so proud of being bad? Because bad, a long time ago, meant bad. And then it meant good. And now it means bad again. Who knows what it's going to mean in 200 years? And the same is true for the word well. Okay? Because when we think of wellness today, we're usually talking about physical well-being. Are you sick or are you well? And those are opposites in today's English. But they weren't always opposites. Well used to have a much broader meaning. Okay? While it might have included aspects of physical wellness, it more accurately meant whole or safe. It's an overall wellness. Now, an example of this is maybe I've been in a car accident, and maybe I have a broken arm and a broken leg, but I'm still healing along the way. And if you ask me, how are you doing? In that case, I might say, I'm doing well, right? Even though I'm clearly still in a lot of pain. And that's what we're talking about when we see Jesus say, your faith has made you well. Through our faith, we are assured that we are safe, and we are assured that we are whole. Now, maybe it doesn't always feel like it, and maybe we still struggle, but our faith assures us that we have an overall wellness. Now, how many times in your life have you run into situations where you've felt like Judy? Maybe you've battled with addiction. Maybe you've struggled with an injury. Maybe mental or emotional illness. Maybe physical illness. And those are all very human conditions that affect so many people. And how many times have you wondered, why is God letting something bad happen to you, even though you've been faithful? The reason we wonder is because of the nuances in our language. You see, God never assures us that we're always going to be free from pain and suffering. Because sometimes we experience pain. And sometimes we experience grief. And sometimes we experience sickness. Maybe people in our lives have hurt us. Maybe we've had some really horrible accidents. Eventually, we all will experience death. But none of these means that we are not safe, and none of them means that we are not whole. And we understand that safety and that wholeness through our faith. How? Well, by seeking God's presence with us during our suffering. You see, Judy is one of the most faithful people I've ever met. She tries hard to have a healthy, loving relationship with God. That's how she and I came to know one another. Sometimes she still calls me. This happened a number of years ago, but sometimes she still calls me, and she'll ask me for prayer, or she'll ask me for advice. She'll ask me for guidance. She truly wants to do the right thing. And I suspect from time to time, she still falls off the wagon. She doesn't always tell me when she does, but I wouldn't be surprised if she did every now and again. And what I can assure Judy is that God never turns his back on her. This isn't to say that her actions don't have consequences, because they certainly might. Right? If she drives a vehicle and she's intoxicated and she gets a DUI, well, that's a consequence. It doesn't mean God isn't with her. Now, if she gets fired from a job for smelling like alcohol at work, well, that's a consequence. But it doesn't mean God doesn't love her. God shows up for us. And sometimes we have a hard time experiencing his presence. But if we pay attention, he's there. He's there. I want you to look around this room. I want you to look at the people in this room. Because each of the people here in this room are proof that God is present in our lives. These are the people who come through for us. These are the people who step up and make sure that we know that we are loved. These are the people who make us laugh, who make us smile, who remind us that God is present in our lives in so many ways. Through our faith and through our faith lives, we know we are safe, and we know we are whole. We know we are well. Now, Judy may not be physically well all the time. Sometimes she relapses. Sometimes she does better than others. Sometimes she really gets it wrong. But don't we all have our struggles? None of us is immune to challenge, pain, heartache, and even sickness. But we are loved. God is in our lives, and he shows up for us. Look for God in your life, because he's there. And when someone in your life is struggling to see his presence, be that reflection of God's love that you are called to be, in order to assure them that they are whole as well. Amen.